Welcome everyone to the the candidate forum for Fargo, the Fargo mayor's race for 2022, hosted by the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. My name is Barb Headrick. I am a member of the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley, currently serving as vice president of that local league and as president of the North Dakota League as well. I will be your moderator, and this forum will be streamed live as well as recorded for playback on the City of Fargo's government PEG TV channel, known as TV Fargo 56. This recording will also be posted on our League of Women Voters of Red River Valley website and Facebook page. So just search for League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley candidate forums and you should be able to find it. Give us a day or so. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. If you'd like to learn about us, please visit our website or Facebook page, or visit with me or one of the other wonderful League volunteers who are working here tonight. We'd like to thank the City of Fargo for providing this wonderful space and the technical assistant with Brian back in the booth, keeping this all running properly so people can see this outside this room, and to all of our volunteers and those who asked questions and submitted them both online and in person. Excuse me. I'd like to take 1 minute to highlight our 2022 voter guide called vote411.org. On this website, you will be able to find your polling locations and get personalized ballot information to compare candidates and see the answers of candidates to questions that have been submitted. I encourage all of the candidates, if you've not already done so, to please get your answers to the questions on Vote 411 for us so that people can see it. This website will go live tomorrow morning, and we hope that you will be able to use it to inform yourself as a voter. And we also particularly would like to thank Folkways for sponsoring our voter guide in 2022. Here are the rules for tonight. Everybody will get a 1 minute opening statement, starting with Michael Borghi. Then we will begin questions, and everyone will be able to answer the question for 1 minute, and we'll move down the line, and everybody will get a chance to start first. And these questions have been submitted both by people here in the audience tonight and by folks online, and have only been changed somewhat for clarity or combined sometimes when the same people ask the same question. If you don't get your question asked, please feel free to discuss it with the candidates themselves or send them a request to answer your question online via their Facebook page or campaign page, whatever is available to you. For each question, each candidate will get 1 minute, and we'll take as many questions as we can until we get to about 7 minutes to go, and then we will go to closing statements, which will again be 1 minute. You will hear a obnoxious buzz when your minute is up. Feel free to finish your thought. The buzzer will continue. We do it that way because evidently it works better. So we will begin with opening statements, and we will begin with Michael Borghi.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. Obviously, my name is Michael Borghi, and I'm running for mayor. I live in the Prairie Wood neighborhood with my wife of 21 years, Kathy Borghi. I'm running for mayor because I feel as a community, we need a good manager, and that's what a mayor is. A mayor is a good manager of people, budgets, and I have 45 plus years in the hospitality industry. I have the ability to work with all aspects of the hospitality industry and also my budgets. I feel that's what makes me the logical choice for mayor. Also, my number one thing on the platform is public safety. And I feel that those are the issues that most Fargo residents are thinking about currently, both north and south in our city. Thank you.
Thank you. Hukun Dabar.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you to the League for hosting this event. My name is Hakun Debar, and I'm running for mayor. The people of Fargo are struggling. As the cost of the rent and owning home continue to rise, many struggle to make ends meet. Many families cannot find or afford childcare. This is a workforce issue, and unfortunately often leaves women with the greater burden, making it harder for them to advance in their careers. Many struggle to find work that pays enough to keep up with the rising costs of life in Fargo. At the same time, employers struggle to find employees. We have waited too long for this problem to be solved. This is why I'm running. It is time that we take action and improve people's lives.
Thank you. Sherry Furco.
Yes. Good evening. I'm Sherry Furco. I want to thank God for this opportunity to be a candidate for Fargo mayor, and thank you, League of Women Voters and our audience, for letting opportunity for sharing my story. I'm a stay-at-home mom with a teenage son that attends Davies High School. I grew up on the north side of Fargo by the Edgewood Golf Course. My parents' backyard backed up to a grassy open field in the woods by the river, and I could go out my back door and go across a row of bushes and be transferred to the natural environment. But that is gone. It is now a housing development. The Fargo's growth plan calls for living in harmony with the natural environment and having a compact city. But those goals back in 2007 have not been accomplished for the sake of development. Yes, our city is growing, but it does not shine. What is missing is beautification, and that's what I'll bring to the community as elected mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim Mahoney.
Thank you for having this tonight. What a great community. We're doing great things. While others are struggling, we're thriving. And it's the people that live in our community. As a surgeon in life and death situations, it's the team that makes us successful. If first responders pick them up in the field, they bring them to the ER, we go to the OR. It's the 24/7 care of those people that makes them survive. That is something you do with good teamwork. I think in Fargo we have great teamwork. Ben Dow is one of the best public works director I've ever had. He's up late at night figuring out what we're going to do with the snow, what we're going to do tomorrow. And yes, the potholes are going to be fixed. When the asphalt opens up in 2 weeks, we'll start fixing potholes. But what are we busy with this week? Cleanup week. We listen to the people. We try to do the things that make people happy in our community. I constantly working to make the community better. And I serve the people. Let's continue to make us better. I would appreciate you letting me continue to lead this great community. Thank you.
Thank you. Arlette Preston.
Good evening. My name is Arlette Preston, and like so many people who live in Fargo, I came here to go to college. I originally went to St. Luke's School of Nursing and then back to Moorhead State for a bachelor's in nursing and finally for a graduate degree in community health nursing. After working at MiraCare, which is now Sanford, for 21 years, I left to open my own business, and I owned and operated it. It was an in-home service for the elderly for 16 years. During that time, I managed up to 100 staff and managed the budgets that go along with that. I also served on the Fargo City Commission from 92 to 2000, 8 years, and on the Fargo Board of Education for 4 years. I was just recently reelected to the City Commission in 2020, and I have the planning and health departments in my portfolio. As Fargo continues to grow, we do not need to lose that small town feel, and we can continue to grow opportunities for everyone. I'm committed to that goal. Thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Roars Jones.
Thank you, Barb, and thank you to the League for hosting our event tonight. I am not a career politician. In fact, I'm a business leader, I'm an attorney, and I'm grateful for our leaders in the past who've helped Fargo become the powerhouse that it is. But it's time for a fresh perspective in Fargo. It's time for a new leader to take Fargo to the next level. And that's why I'm running. We're just getting started here. I'm focused on three things. First is supporting our law enforcement and first responders, making sure that they understand that we value them and that they're fully funded so that they can provide the safety that our community needs. Second is making sure that we're using our city's resources to the best of our ability. We want to make sure that we are partnering with our community leaders, our citizens, to make sure that we are being as efficient as possible with our city government to keep costs low, and making sure that we're not burdening our citizens with high taxes and special assessments. We need to keep Fargo affordable so that we can attract and retain people to live in our city.
Thank you. With our first question, we will start with candidate DeBar, and this is a little bit of a switch on a frequently asked question about what makes you best equipped to lead. This is what initiatives are you uniquely equipped to lead?
Since my career, I've helped thousands of people in our community to get good paying jobs. That is what I was doing for the last 8 years, putting people to work, negotiate with employers, work with them, help them, and trying to see individuals, their barriers, and try to see that I can remove 1 or 2 barriers in their list. And what I find out is that, we are lacking leadership on this. And the city here, they did not invest in a workforce issue. And that is number one issue that we have faced day to day. And that is why I'm going to create a workforce department that's going to help employers reduce the workforce shortage we have in our community, and also help individuals who are seeking for jobs to get good paying jobs, secure that have a working environment as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Fargo?
Well, beautification is well documented in a community is viewing as having high quality of life will attract and retain its population and its households within a city. Beautification encourages people to walk and shop and consume a meal. It also is a dense area for better to support our entertainment uses, our art institutes, and also savings on infrastructure development costs leave more resources to invest in amenities. Also, it increases our safety. Dense, beautiful areas have more eyes on the street, which reduce the opportunity for crime. Beautification is what Fargo needs. Thank you.
Candidate Mahoney?
We have a flood issue in the communities all around us, north of us, and out of Valley City as well. And so we worked real hard on the flood initiative to have flood protection, which will be here in 26. The second part of that formula is to look at water. We don't have our drought protection in this community. Long-term sustainability of this community means to have everything covered. You got to have water covered, and you got to have flood covered. So the initiative that we're going to have to work on next is to how to get water to the valley if we have a drought. And some people predict the water and the cycles we're going to have are going to be different. This community has to be able to long-term sustain growth and development and not be hampered by the handicap of either not having enough water or having too much water. Grand Forks just went 48 feet this week as far as the height of the water. It was 55 feet in 97, and they flooded the community. This year they stood by while their flood protection worked, and they were safe. They didn't make one sandbag. That's what we need to do for our community. We need to do both parts of that formula, flood protection and water supply.
Thank you. Candidate Preston?
So we are set pretty well with the diversion and the water project. So looking forward, the major challenge that is probably going to be looking at us is going to be housing affordability. As land costs increase, as we build out towards the diversion, that's something that we need to be well aware of. I am qualified for this. I have initiated a study actually through MetroCog to take a look at housing needs and housing supply and identify the gaps. We will need to, once we have that information, we'll need to figure out the strategies for meeting some of those gaps. And I'm assuming we will probably have some gaps in what we're calling that missing middle. People are really starting to get locked out of home ownership. Our average market price for a home right now is $300,000, and then you add the specials on top of it. So housing affordability is going to be a major issue going forward.
Thank you. Candidate Roars Jones?
Thank you. So as a business leader and a real estate professional, I understand the implications of budgeting and how to work with our strategic partners to make sure that we're always looking for efficiencies in our budgeting and how to do things better. That's important because we need to keep Fargo affordable for people who want to live here. Along with that, the real estate background helps me understand the details, kind of the nuances of special assessments and how can we bring those down without upsetting our real estate market. As an attorney, I understand the challenges that our law enforcement personnel are facing day to day. We want to make sure that we're supporting them, providing them all of the resources they need, because safety is a key to encouraging people to live and work in the city of Fargo. And lastly, as a legislator, I have a lot of relationships across the state. I want to make sure that we make sure we're building our rapport with our cities and our legislators across the state, because that's something that Fargo has struggled with in the past. And I think we can do a lot better job partnering with the other communities across the state.
Thank you, candidate Borghi.
Well, I'd like to say something about Fargo as a whole. I'm retired. Getting close to retirement. I moved back here to Fargo because when I lived here in the 90s, Fargo was a very warm and welcoming community, and it still is. Like I said, I talk to my neighbors a lot. I get up every day right now and I go to work. What I can bring to the table is somebody who cares and will work hard for the Fargo resident, the current Fargo resident. Yes, we need to keep growth. Growth will happen because everybody wants to live here in Fargo. But if we don't get back to the basic things, get back on track, which got us here to begin with, if we lose our vision towards that, we're going to be just like Minneapolis. We're just a couple of years away from having the same issues that Minneapolis is having, and we'll have those here because we're not looking out for our current residents, both on the north side of town and the south side of town. Thank you.
Thank you. With this question, we will start with candidate Fargo. I'm combining questions here. How will you address ideas related to the goal for diversity, equity, inclusion in your role as mayor of Fargo? And how does that include new arrivals and our indigenous community? Do you need me to read it again?
Yes, please.
How will you address the ideas to meet the goals for diversity, equity, inclusion in our community in your role as mayor? And how does that include new arrivals and members of our indigenous community?
When you say indigenous communities, are you talking all people?
No, indigenous is first to Native Americans.
Okay. I guess I'm not sure how to answer that question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Candidate Mahoney?
In our community, in order to fill all the employment issues we have to open the community to a variety of people to come into our community. And we have 33 employers that will hire somebody at this present time with diversity. We have many of our employers have multiple languages in their areas that we're working with. We have big employers that are very happy to have people come into the community and work. In the indigenous population, the Native American Commission oftentimes goes and addresses the issues of the indigenous population and tries to work with them on the special health needs they particularly have, and then also in employability. We've hired a director of diversity, Terry Hogan, and Dr. Hogan will help us first assess the city of Fargo. Are we addressing those issues? Are we making everybody feel inclusive? Are we trying to make things better for our community? And then let's look out into the community. We have some new Americans that have children that are graduated from NDSU having difficult times finding jobs. We need to address that. We need to find out what are the barriers and how can we make that better. We can be a better community, and embracing everybody into our community is our best way forward.
Thank you, Candidate Preston.
So the important part, I think, of ensuring that everybody has access to opportunities is, first of all, to respect the cultural differences and appreciate the diversity that we currently have in our community. We do have, as Mayor Mahoney mentioned, we do have a new director of DEI for the city. The city needs to provide some leadership in allowing and providing access to opportunities for individuals, both of color as well as different religions. So having a recruiting process that is open and seeks out individuals of diverse backgrounds is so important, as well as looking at our promoting practices and making sure that everybody has opportunities for moving up the ladder as well. I think by all means, being an open and welcoming community and providing that leadership up here is so terrifically important.
Thank you. Candidate Roars Jones.
Thank you. So I think we approach this with empathy and seeking to understand people. The first thing that we do as Midwesterners in any conversation is we start a conversation and we try to figure out our commonalities. We start our conversation by figuring out what makes us the same, and then we move on to the things that make us different. And I think that's how we build relationships. There's always room to improve our relationships here in the city of Fargo. There's always ways to help people feel more included. We just need to reach out and start to have those conversations and help people feel like they belong.
Thank you. Candidate Borgi.
Okay, well, when it comes to First Nation, the workforce, I mean, everything that's that I do, I truly believe that it's all the private sector. And what we need to do as a city is we just need to set up programs that will help our private sector to train these individuals, the new Americans or the indigenous or First Nation, to help them find jobs so they can be a productive part of our community. Instead of just being a taker, they can also be a giver. That's really what Fargo is all about. We welcome everybody here, but we also don't want you just to come here if you're just going to take from us as well. So as the mayor, I would work towards setting up programs to help the private sector to train and hire people of I'll use the letters DEI. And that's how I would do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate DeBar.
Mm-hmm.
The current mayor has a cabinet of 23 people. Out of the 23, only 6 are women. That is barely a quarter. Similarly, only has one person of color in the cabinet. That is less than 5%. We know that people of color make almost 16% of the population in Fargo, and women make almost half. And what position do women and the one person of color hold in the city? And that one, I'll leave it there because I see the mayor bragging about the only person of color he has in the cabinet, which is Director of Diversity and Inclusion Officer. And so basically that other people, they don't deserve, the people of color don't deserve like other positions in the cabinet. We only deserve on DEI. And then for new Americans, I've worked with them my entire career. I put thousands of them in good paying jobs, help them integrate in our community. And I know the barriers that they face in the community. I'm part of their success. And I'm also, thank you.
You can finish your thought.
Oh, okay. So what I mean is basically, I came to this community and went to school here, worked hard, and started nonprofit, become business owner. And basically, I have the experience that I can help the newcomers that are coming here to integrate our community fully and become successful members in our society.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next question, we start with Candidate Mahoney. Again, combining a couple of questions here. What are your plans for affordable housing in Fargo? And how does that include the concerns about special assessments especially reducing the burden for seniors, working families, and businesses?
That's a great question. And is affordable housing, basically, Arlette Preston did mention it. We're going to do a study by MetroCog and find out the needs. City of Fargo itself has invested $9 million in affordable housing and low-income housing. We also put $3 million in rent help when people are having trouble during COVID at that time, and also doing food. We are working vigorously now with 2 other projects that are going to be in the community for low-income housing, and that too the city has invested in, and that's what we're trying to do. One of the questions you have to talk about is Artist Flats. Artist Flats is one building that was built, and there was a second building that was going to be built for affordable housing, and there wasn't enough a need to build the second part of that project, and they stopped it. So what is our true need? And that's really why the study is going to be done, to find out what that is. A lot of people talk about the amount of apartments we have in town, but we have a young town. Our average age is 31 years of age. Most people can't come out of college and buy a house. They're 30, 32, or 35 before they buy a house. The reason we have so many apartments is because we have young age. But we will look to address all those issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Preston.
We recently had a couple of proposals in front of us in front of the City Commission. One of them was a proposal to target individuals who are probably in that lower wage level worker, and probably service industry type worker. And it was based in downtown here. So trying to build housing that is within reach of individuals that are probably lower wage and are close to their employment is so important. And that's the piece that we're truly missing. Downtown, West Acres, other parts of town where employment centers are happening. So, you know, the city probably needs to come to the table with some additional, lower cost land or some other incentives to ensure that that kind of housing gets built.
Thank you. Candidate Roars John.
Thank you. The key to reducing the cost of housing in the city of Fargo is less government involvement, not more. We need to work hard to reduce our regulatory costs that drive up the cost of building new homes in the city of Fargo. We need to make sure that we're not making it more difficult for our home builders to get permits, to get through engineering, to go through all of the processes that they have that drive up the cost of building houses. Now, one way I think we can use our government more efficiently is looking at our tax incentives. We should always be evaluating our tax incentives to make sure that they are meeting the needs of the city at that moment. We've had some great results using tax incentives in downtown. I think that we need to continue to look at areas of the city where we can target those. And if affordable housing is a key need for the city of Fargo, as it appears to be, we should be using those tax incentives to encourage entry-level home building. I think there's a lot of creative things that we can do.
Thank you. Candidate Borghi.
Low-cost housing is an issue that is growing all over the United States. It's just not just new to Fargo. It's all over. So what the city needs to do is generate an opportunity for private business again to either take over some of these older apartment buildings. There's many of them out there that are right now are vacant, even though that some of the people up here said that, you know, we're running at a 3% occupancy or 3% vacancy rate. That's not really the case. There's a lot more buildings and a lot more apartments that are vacant. What we need to do is set up something for entrepreneurs to go in there and redo these apartments and make them affordable by either tax increment dollars or helping to fund the remodel.
Thank you.
Yep.
Candidate DeBar.
So was your question about affordable housing and special assessment?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the special assessment a little bit. And so what I realized, special assessments are a surprise tax that put the burden of the infrastructure maintenance and replacement on you when it should be the responsibility of the city. And that's why Mayor Mahoney here is saying, and everybody here, that we're going to do a study every time on a special assessment. They're coming for your money. But this is the plan I have. I'm going to end special assessment. And this is my plan. We'll work with the state to reallocate small portion of 130 million in the sales tax they already collect from Fargo every year, call out Wall Street from infrastructure finance by utilizing the Bank of North Dakota to provide zero interest loans to high-value city infrastructure projects. Also, the other one is stop giving massive tax breaks to big developers for projects they will build without these breaks, saving millions annually. Also, properly manage city assets, like the Civic Center, which has lost $2 million under the current administration management. These steps raise and save over $50 million annually, more than enough to pay for the mistakes of the past and fully fund well-run infrastructure asset management program without putting the burden on you. Thanks.
Thank you. Candidate Furco.
Yes, affordable housing, I think, is definitely an issue. And the city of Fargo is working with a land trust company. But we need to ensure that the trust is using it to preserve the neighborhoods. For example, like in the core neighborhoods where we buy out areas of housing, but use those dollars to bring in entrepreneurs or investors that want to invest in those homes. For example, for artists to come in and they would have to meet certain application requirements, but we would want to target maybe certain jobs, workforce people to renovate those homes and through special affordable financing that would be possibly through the Gate City Bank. And this would also, ensure that that we could definitely think of outside of the box and improve our city's economy as the city grows organically. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we start with candidate Preston. Do you have any business or financial conflicts of interest that will interfere with voting on any issue you expect to come before the Fargo City Commission?
Well, actually, I've had a couple of projects that I have declared conflict of interest. My husband and I are very small investors in the downtown fund. So when those projects have come forward, I have declared conflict of interest and allowed the commission to make a decision whether I would participate in the conversation or not. Usually the impact has been really very minimal personally. So in both cases, the commission has allowed me. I do believe very strongly in transparency and the importance of anybody that is in a decision-making position reveal that and allow the public to know that might be a portion of the decision-making process in the process of decision-making. So in that case, the commission decided that it was okay for me to participate.
Thank you. Candidate Roars Jones.
Thank you. There are a number of entities that I have an involvement with. I've had the privilege of building several businesses in the city of Fargo. And so I've been very forthcoming from the beginning of my campaign that I will always disclose and recuse myself from voting on anything that would benefit me or my family financially. It's similar to my service in the legislature. We fill out a statement every time we run for election that indicates any entities that we have an interest in. Same thing for this election. And then as conflicts come up, you declare the conflicts, depending on what type of thing it is. Sometimes it may be determined by the rest of the commission or the rest of the legislature that you should vote on that issue. But if it's something that would have a financial benefit to me or my family, I would definitely not vote on that issue.
Thank you. Candidate Borghi.
Conflict of interest. Again, there might be a half a dozen or so. If they came up, I would definitely accuse myself of those votes. But for the most part, no. I'm just like I said. I can't think of anything other than maybe 6 items. And if they did, being in the hospitality business, you can understand how that might come up. if there was something that one of them did wrong or something like that. That would be about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate DeBar.
No, I don't have it. But in case it come up, I'll recuse myself. Not voting, but I don't have it.
Candidate Fargo.
At the current time, there is no conflicts of interest, but I would also excuse myself if there was. Thank you.
Candidate Mahoney.
I try to keep myself without any conflicts of interest. I've been offered a variety of different investments that I've turned down because when you sit in the mayor's position, you should serve the people and try to make best decisions on whether a project is worthwhile or should go forward, or a developer does or does not deserve to have that. And I just want to make, since I have extra time, Candidate Dunbar talked about people I've added to my cabinet. I've actually hired 12 people. It's been 8 women and 1 person of color. I also have hired an attorney now at this time that is also a woman. So the time I've been mayor, I think the majority of people I've hired have not been the traditional hires of a male. So I think that we've done very well.
Thank you. Next candidate, Candidate Roars Jones. This is actually asked specifically to you, and then I'll let the other candidates decide how they would like to answer it. But it has to do with the fact that you are serving in District 46 as a state representative. And the person is asking, how will you be able to handle these both these jobs, and will Fargo be your main focus?
That's actually kind of easy to answer because Fargo's always been my main focus. I serve the people of Fargo right now. If I were to be elected mayor, my hope is that I can serve a greater percentage of the people of but this is a question that people have asked me a lot in the past. How are you going to work? How are you going to do this? And the answer is you do it. I went to law school. I had 3 kids, 2 when I started, 3 when I finished. And there's always a way to balance priorities. The question regarding whether or not I would or would not keep my legislative seat is a question that I will make once I'm elected. This is the focus of my race right now, or my efforts right now. My focus is being the best mayor for the city of Fargo, and I want to earn that right. But my focus has always been the citizens of Fargo. I just hope to serve more of you in the future.
Thank you. Candidate Borghi, would you like to answer anything about this?
About her decision, well, that would be her decision to make, and I'm sure she'll make the right one if she gets in that position. For me personally, I want to talk about the fact that there was a question last time about the mayor's position being a part-time position. I still believe it should remain a part-time position. And the reason being is I think a well-organized and managed mayor can do both jobs, or this job part-time and then my full-time job as well. So I would keep my job unless the job got too much time and stuff, then I would have to take a look at the other opportunities that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate DeBar.
I'm not a state representative, but I'm running for mayor, and hopefully, if it becomes full time, I'll dedicate myself to be the mayor of Fargo. And I don't have anything to say, but that's her decision. But I think Fargo deserves to be a full-time mayor that can help, reduce the workforce shortage we have in our community, and also help other individuals, also take the burden out from the seniors and our hardworking families that we need to end the special assessment. And Fargo is growing, and we need a mayor who's always available, that can meet with the folks and reduce the burden we face every day.
Thank you. Candidate Fargo.
I think it needs to have a focus and, making an impact. You have to have a full-time mayor and on the job. And I think you need to keep your focus on one aspect or one part of the using your talents, your gifts, your ideas that is going to impact the people, your office, all the departments. I think you're going to need to have a full-time person what's needing for the changes that we need to make in Fargo. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mahoney.
It's difficult for some people to understand this. This is a 24/7 job. People laugh at me because I carry two phones all the time, but one is my city phone and one is my private phone. When they needed sandbags in Valley City, that call came on a Saturday. When they needed sandbags in Fort Ransom, that call came on a Sunday. When we're trying to decide a snow day, those calls come late at night, early in the morning. If there's a fire, 3-alarm fire, you get those phone calls. You get the phone calls from the police chief if something happens. And I hate to say it, but when you become Mayor of Fargo, you're Mr. Fargo. You can't go to the legislative people and not have people recognize you represent the city of Fargo. The reason I've never run for a legislative race and a city of Fargo is because you represent Fargo in its totality. And there's a variety of different things that happen politically that you have to be very careful of. Fargo is always seen as the blessed city. We're seen as a city that's got it all. So sometimes it's difficult for a legislative body to say, hey, we need to give them something more. Working on good relationships, they gave a bond that helped us finish the flood diversion. And that's oftentimes what happens, is you need to work with everybody, but you represent Fargo.
Thank you. Candidate Preston.
For the past 30 years, we've had a full-time mayor, and there's a reason. It's because it's a very busy job. And if anybody knows anything about the legislature, you're basically out of the community for about 4 to 5 months every other year, plus interim legislative committees in between. So I don't see the two of them being able to be done at the same time. And to be honest with you, I think it's not fully probably honest with the public to not declare upfront what your intention would be. So I would encourage all of us to ensure that, to tell the public whether we're going to be here full-time or not. And I would be.
Thank you. Next question, we start with candidate Borghi. One of the latest big questions is, what do we do with the Fargo Civic Center? What would you do with it?
Well, I know I've read a lot about turning it into a daycare center or turning it into a community center for ages 10 and under. Again, that would be something that we would really want the private sector to take care of. So I mean, we could look at that and offer that out there for an entrepreneur or a business owner to take that over and maybe do something like that. That's what I would put most of my time and effort in.
Thank you, candidate DeBar.
I think we need to get a public input about this. A lot of time what happens is the city commissioners make their own decision, but what we need is we need to reach out to Fargo residents, get their inputs, do town halls, get their points, what we need to be done. For me, I think on my side, I would love to see the Fargo Civic Center turn on like Fargo Global Trade Center, having more restaurants there and having also the same civic center as well. But also, we can also build affordable housing on top as well, if that is possible, when, the current administration doesn't like affordable housing to be done in downtown Fargo. We can also do at the civic center. And then at the bottom, we can make childcare, we can make restaurants. There's a lot of things we can do there. Hopefully, but I'll prefer making it public and getting their inputs, and also talking to the neighborhood as well to familiarize what they want to.
Thank you, candidate Fargo.
I think when we, work with our community and we give them input as to what they want for the Civic Center, I think it's important that we listen. We can't always dictate what it's going to be. I think we have to start listening to the people and say, what do you want it to be? And then work with, the community, our entrepreneurs, public and private sectors, and really, kind of step back and see what can it be and how is it going to benefit our city and people coming to visit our city. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Mahoney.
The Performing Arts Committee has looked at this over the last 2 years to try to figure out what to do. And when they finally got through the study, they elected that at the present site of the Civic Center that you could put up performing arts. The difficulty was the price, and it's now time to ask the community, what do you want to do? It'll cost about $55 million. We talked about funding group that came in that they could raise $35 million. But look what's happened in the community. When NDSU went out and raised funds that went over $400 million was their goal, they did $565 million. When Concordia did its fundraising, they did the same thing. It's time to look at the appetite. Let's redo the Civic Center, perhaps make it performing arts, maybe not as big as we thought at first, a $70 million redo, but perhaps a $40 or $50 million redo. But I think that's where our energy needs to go. I love it when people are giving ideas. Let's look at the ideas. If there's something viable, let's look at that. If not, let's do a performing arts.
Thank you. Candidate Preston.
The Civic Center has been slowly having less and less events there, and in fact, I don't know when the last one was there. So the building has become pretty outdated. It's not good for concerts, and it's not good for very many sporting events. So the building would require a huge amount of renovation and a lot of dollars put into it if we wanted to keep it. I don't think that's feasible. I do agree the Performing Arts Center has been looked at. There's been public input for that, and that would be the perfect site for it. So it all depends on, and there's a fundraising feasibility effort going on to see if indeed there's private sector support for actually building one, but that would be the site for it.
Thank you. Candidate Rores-Jones.
So related to the Civic Center, whatever we do, we will decide based on public input. And however we do it, we're going to do it in the way that is the best use of taxpayer resources. We want to make sure that we are getting private partners to invest in this, and it's not just being funded on the backs of taxpayers. Going back to the question about whether or not Fargo has or should have a full-time mayor, Fargo does not have a full-time mayor, and whether they do or do not have a full-time mayor is not a decision to be made by anyone on this panel or the commission. It's a decision to be made by the voters because they're the ones who have to fund the position. Now, whether or not I would be capable of serving in this role or potentially another role will be a decision also to be made by the voters. But I can tell you that I understand prioritization. I was in Bismarck this morning taking care of my legislative responsibilities. I'm here tonight taking care of these responsibilities, and I'll be participating again tomorrow in Bismarck taking care of my legislative responsibilities.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Candidate DeBar. What role can the city of Fargo play in reducing carbon emissions?
I think climate change is a huge global problem. And to be honest, Fargo won't be able to save the world alone, but we can take action to improve our lives. And I have here 3 examples to share. I think one is the exhaust from the city buses smells bad. It's harmful to health. And diesel buses are far more expensive to maintain and operate than electric buses. By immediately replacing our diesel fleet with electric buses, we can save money, improve health, and avoid the terrible smell. And then finally, we can plant more trees, making our city more beautiful and making people happier and healthier while sucking up carbon from the air. Also, we need more evergreen trees. We live in a place with 9 months of winter. So let's make sure we can enjoy green trees all year round.
Thank you. Though I object to 9 months of winter. Thank you, Candidate Fargo.
I would agree. Planting more trees is going to help our carbon emissions. It absorbs it, and it also it takes those carbons out of our air, and the trees use that. And at the same time, we can get the benefits of the beautification in our city by planting our trees and taking care of them. I think that is an important piece that we can do to improve, safety and beauty, and give our city a more healthy, wealthy, wise, I guess, the image of what we can give our community and to our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mahoney.
Our Sustainability Committee has looked at this, and Fargo's been looking at this for a long time, and we look for different ways to help the community out. We converted all our street lights to LED. That cuts a huge amount of wattage that you have to use to do your electricity. We were one of the first to do methane recapture at the waste management. And the interesting thing about that, somebody said, hey, we can get some carbon credits. And the team asked, well, how much is that worth? A check came in for $600,000, and then we thought, boy, that's really serious. Now, what we're doing now is we're doing carbon measuring in 2 of our big buildings and then throughout the community to see what other things we can do to help keeping the carbon footprint down. If you take out a tree, you have to put 2 trees in. So our forestry department already does that when somebody develops a site. We are a community that will look at it, measure it, and see what other things we can do. But sometime if you're not having something to do in the afternoon, watch the Sustainability Committee and have them talking about different things we can do. We feel we have almost 5 pages of things we've already done in our community and things we'll continue to do to look at that problem and make an impact.
Thank you. Candidate Preston.
So I'm not an expert in this area, I'll admit that up front, but certainly am very concerned about environmental issues and would be real interested in pursuing some of these. Certainly electric buses would be an option. I'm also real excited about the Sustainability and Resiliency Committee has come forward with a proposal, and in fact the City Commission approved bringing on a consultant to start calculating what our carbon impact is and what kind of carbon reduction we're actually involved in. So that's the first step, is really to start measuring what we're doing and how we can perhaps move towards a goal. So that, I think, is real encouraging, and it's exciting.
Thank you. Candidate Roars-Jones.
Thank you. So we have a very unique entrepreneurial environment here in Fargo and across the state of North Dakota. I've had the opportunity to serve on the board of directors for NDSU's Research and Technology Park. I also have had the opportunity to spend time up at UND's EERC, which is the Energy and Environmental Research Center. And there's a lot of cool things that are being done across the state. I think what we need to do as a city is constantly be reaching out to people, learning about the work that they're doing, learning about ways that we can bring these new technologies into our city to continually be looking for ways to be more efficient and create less pollution.
Thank you. Candidate Borgie.
Yeah, I remember going to school, and they used to tell me that trees with no leaves don't take carbon out of the air. I mean, that's 6-7 months out of the year we have trees with no leaves. So that's obviously not the idea. That doesn't work. So the next thing I'm thinking about is we have to look at the fact is how much money are we actually spending to lower our carbon footprint? I know that, the earth is ever changing, and we have to worry about the end coming. But at the end of the day, everything comes down to dollars and cents. I don't care which side of the road you're on. You got so much money that comes in and so much money that goes out, and you can't put more money out than comes in, because you know what happens then. They're going to come and ask you for more. And that's where I'm going to help you out when I'm mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we start with candidate Fargo. How do you feel about moving to a ward system for the Fargo City Commission, where they divide the city into wards the way Moorhead does, and that everybody votes within that, people vote only within their ward?
I think that's what we need to do in Fargo. We are a growing community, and a ward system would help bring the leadership closer to the people so they have a voice in their neighborhoods of what they want in their neighborhoods. A century ago, we had ward system, and I think it's time that we do bring it back. So I am for a ward system in the city of Fargo.
Thank you. Candidate Mahoney.
We tried to form a committee to look into governance because there was an interest in the commission, and we had 4 people apply to look into that, so we felt maybe people aren't as that interested in. Fargo has a very unique system. There's a question, maybe we should add 2 more people, because it seemed like a lot of candidates either for commission or for mayor. Maybe we need more input, so maybe we should go to 7 on commission. The difficulty with wards is we're not like Minnesota. The wards are already defined right now. We haven't defined the roads. And how would you have equal wards? Because social economics of every part of the city is different. It'd be very difficult to get, by federal rules, you have to set your wards up that are kind of equal in numbers and of how the demographics are made up. And I've challenged many people and said, hey, let's have wards, Tim. It's hard to do. The other thing is that one of the things about having a commission in Fargo is unique. But you vote for the whole city. So we don't get somebody protecting their neighborhood. There's been some decisions that have been hard to make. But if you're thinking of the whole community, that's better. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Preston.
So this would certainly be an issue that would need to go to a public vote. It's a form of governance and would require the public to approve it. So, however, let me state my personal opinion. I certainly would be supportive of wards, and for a couple different reasons. One is, and it was just stated, neighborhoods are all different. They have needs that are different. And we are large enough at this point to be able to actually identify neighborhoods with different needs. So it would ensure a voice at the table for every neighborhood. The other reason is it's really difficult right now for a member of the public to know who to go to and who would be accountable for following up on a concern or a question of theirs. We get emails from everyone, and all 5 of us get those emails, and it's not clear who should be answering them and reporting back. So those are the reasons I would support a ward system.
Candidate Roars Jones.
Perfect. I think there's value in having one, but there's also concerns that I have. It's a question that is worthy of looking into. Right now, of the 5 commissioners that we have, only 1 commissioner lives south of 32nd Avenue. So that makes it difficult to feel like the south side of town is being represented. But dividing communities into ward system can also create parochialism or difficulty in representing feeling like you're being represented by the entirety of the commission. And I assume voting would still be, when you would vote for all of the commission members. That's a question to be answered too. The other challenge that I see as a person who is very involved in looking for recruiting candidates to office, it's hard to tell looking at the mayoral race that we have right now and the commission race because they're very large slates of candidates. But as you break down those geographical regions, you have a smaller pool of candidates to pull from. So there's pros and cons. I would be open to looking at the option, but ultimately it will be up to the voters to decide.
Thank you, Candidate Borghi.
I'm actually in favor of Mayor Mahoney's idea of adding 2 more commissioners, because as the old saying goes, the more the merrier. But there is really a lot of things that do come up, and by having 2 more, there's always that possibility that we'll get a couple from the south instead of all from the north, or we might have all from the south, or we could change the city charter. I mean, there's lots of ideas, and make it that you have to have representation from all areas of Fargo, but yet they all are voted at large. So that's something that we can look at. If I was mayor, I would look into that.
Thank you, Candidate DeBar.
And personally, I would say no. And why? Because we need to represent the whole city. But I will agree with Commissioner Roulette that let's take it to the public. Let the public decide. And if you want to stay the way we are, or if you want to do what. But and as a mayor, what I'm gonna do is also I will create a neighborhood advisory council that is strong, that will also not only the city commission deciding about what to build on their neighborhood, but also the neighborhood to decide first before the city commission.
Thank you. Next question, we start with Candidate Mahoney. How will you improve morale and reduce turnover of city employees, including police officers? And I'm going to add another question because we're starting to run low on time. And when speaking of the police department, how do you plan to improve the operations of the Fargo PD, and especially considering the high rate of negative interaction they have with people of color?
I think you got a little bit huge question there, but
I'm afraid I did. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think it really mixes a lot of things. We've invested in the police department. I've added over 46 people in the last 5 years, basically, or since 2015. We have 17 vacancies right now. We're filling those vacancies. We had a change agent come in as a police chief, and with change agent comes difficulties with different people. We also had George Floyd happen. When George Floyd happened, a lot of people got a little disgruntled being police people, being police women or men. It's a difficult job to handle. We are doing a survey with the police improvement plan right now, trying to find out if there is issues within the department. That's going very well. We have many people coming in and talking about different things in that area. We are training our policemen on a weekly basis, basically de-escalating encounters with the public, making it a better opportunity for us to interact with the public. And is there a less violent way to do it? Yes, we are. We're doing a variety of things that are just fantastic. And the only other thing I want to hit, we're doing body cameras. So if you find what you're saying, is there something going wrong and whether to interact with anybody of the public, take our police cameras and look at them, because that's not what we're finding.
Thank you. Candidate Preston.
When I was on the commission before in the 90s, we brought in a police chief from the outside. We had a police chief in place for about 20 years. He came in from the outside, made lots of changes. They were really positive changes. He was here for about 8 years. And then since then, we've had police chiefs from inside. So we've had about 16 years of inside police chief. By that, I mean they've been promoted from within. This time, we purposefully, intentionally selected somebody from the outside. It's always good, especially with law enforcement, when there's so much interaction between the public and the department, to have a fresh look at things. And he has definitely made some changes. All those changes have been certainly supported by the commission. So the changes have been, they've been fast and coming, and there's individuals that have struggled in adjusting to those. So it has caused some turnover. However, nothing that is awfully concerning. We'll be waiting for the results from the survey.
Thank you. Candidate Roars Jones.
Thank you. So during my research for this position, I have talked to department heads and I have talked to rank and file employees of the city. I have talked to leadership to the extent that I've had access to them in the police department, and I've talked to everyone from the top down, detectives and patrol officers. Everyone feels that there's a morale issue in the city of Fargo. Everyone in law enforcement feels like they are undervalued. Everyone that I've talked to in law enforcement feels like we need more bodies on the street. That's one of my primary focuses, is making sure that we have the funding to properly staff the city of Fargo. We've had issues with officers are just so overwhelmed that they don't have the ability to enforce traffic laws. The response times are not what they want them to be. They want to have caseloads that they feel like they can manage. And so we need to make sure that we're properly supporting our law enforcement so that they feel like they can do the job to the level that they want to do it.
Thank you. Candidate Borghi.
Yeah, public safety is why I'm running for mayor. They did a search. I mean, they had candidates and they did a search, and they hired a current police chief, and yes, he's not from here. And the thing about the police chief, from what I can see, and then what I've talked to people that work in the department. We'll just leave it at that, and then I can just see what I've read and the different meetings that I've gone to. He's a community organizer. He doesn't police, and what that means is they spend more time gathering everybody else's opinion on what's going on instead of actually following the rules and laws that are on the books. Fargo has many laws on the books that aren't enforced. I mean, they just plainly are not enforced. When you don't enforce the law, those things get bigger and bigger. And about crime has no color. Crime is crime. When you commit a crime, you do the time. That's just how it is.
Thank you. Candidate DeBar.
think the city has been losing employees in every department. Losing employees is a serious problem. It represents a loss of investment in training, loss of institutional knowledge, and major costs to rehire and retain positions. We need to start listening with our city employees, hearing their concerns, and also listening to residents who are impacted by our work. This will help us increase buy-in and create better plans to move forward. According to the Harvard study, the quality of best leaders and managers that separate them from others is that they not only demonstrate but also cultivate virtuous action through the following: forgiveness, humility, kindness, trust, integrity, generosity, gratitude, recognition. But this will be the pillars of my administration, and this will be an important part on how I'll select my cabinet, and I will encourage them to use this as a guide to hiring managers. Also, we need to support our law enforcement. They do day to day because we burden them. One is because we are not investing in affordable housing and workforce department, and I think we better look at also on the resident, and also we need to support our law enforcement as well.
Thank you. Candidate Fargo.
I agree with Mike Borghi about, I think our police department is kind of being stressed and taxed. We keep spreading our city out with sprawl, and that just gives them have too much area to cover. And we need to increase our law enforcement and to able to maybe also put in police hubs in the neighborhoods and to have a presence, and so the neighborhood has the ability to see that the police are there for safety, but also to just ensure that they know that they're being that their neighborhood is safe. Also that, to enforce the quality of life is important for all neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to sneak in one more question before we go to closing statements. And again, thank everybody for submitting their questions. There were many more than I could possibly get to. I kept puzzling through what wonderful question do I do next. I hope you can ask the candidates their questions later. Candidate Preston, we'll start with you, and this deals with what I believe was talked about at Monday's City Commission meeting. There was a discussion about development in the Roosevelt neighborhood. What is your plan for neighborhood engagement and working with developers?
So I think the most important thing is, and we've been working on this for the last few years, is getting planning and development staff up to par so that the city is driving development, not developers driving the city necessarily. So just having a vision, a master plan, the ability to know what is good for the city and what kind of development. The issue that we talked about on Monday evening was an infill development, and that becomes even more more dicey, if you want to call it, because it's oftentimes happens with single-family homes surrounding the development. So having citizen engagement up front, I don't necessarily believe that it should be directly with a developer. It needs to be the city that has the vision, and they deal with a developer with certainly information flowing and concerns coming from the neighborhoods. But the negotiation should be happening between the city and the developer.
Thank you. Candidate Roars Jones.
Thank you. I think the key to all of this is good communication. We, as a city, have put together a master plan for the city that was created with a lot of communication from our residents in the city of Fargo. But I think as we have new projects that come forward that maybe are not something that was contemplated within the master plan, we need to make sure that we we reach out to the neighborhoods, we understand their perspective, we come to an agreement with all of the parties involved, cities, developers, neighborhoods, to make sure that everyone is having their needs met. And then when you make a commitment to a neighborhood, you have to fulfill that. That's what we have always done with our family business, and it's what we'll continue to do, and I will continue to do in my role as mayor. Along with that, oh, of course, there it goes, right out of my head. But with that, it's about making sure that you're communicating.
Thank you. Candidate Borghi.
Yeah, what happened Monday was an interesting thing. It does all come down to communication. I think there's actually four parties involved in that particular instance. And I think at one time they all agreed to do the right thing and get everything done in a timely manner. And what happened is somebody dropped the ball. Again, it all goes to the top of the hill. It goes to the mayor. The mayor is the chief operating officer of the city. And somewhere in there, they lost dates, they lost times, the projects didn't get done, they were missed. However it was, it's not the mayor's job to drive around in his car and make sure everything is done. It's the people who work for him, the people who answer to the mayor. So he needs to be able to put the right people in the right job so he's kept informed or she's kept informed so these things don't happen again. That, again, was why I'm running, a good manager.
Thank you. Candidate DeBar.
I think right now what is happening is the mayor and the PepCon are pretending to be the great defenders of the public against the developers. But let's be honest, there are only two reasons why this is happening. First, they just turned down an amazing developer who will have paid taxes, will have built affordable workforce housing and space for childcare, and also a grocery store. Instead, they picked Kilbourne, and the result is losing $10 million in revenue. The second reason is the election is right around the corner. But let's look history. The Roosevelt neighborhood has been good partner with the city. They cooperated to create the UMU, area of higher density student housing, but then the mayor and the city still allow developers to buy up single family homes outside of the UMU, allow them to rot, and then continue to tear down the Roosevelt neighborhood. This was not surprise. The residents of Fargo deserve better leadership that lives up to its promises, rather than pretending to be a good for a few months before every election. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Fargo.
Could you repeat the question, please?
On Monday at the City Commission meeting, there was a discussion about development in the Roosevelt neighborhood. What is your plan for neighborhood engagement and working with developers?
I think it's important that, we look at what are the issues before we have to get to the root of the issue. I think sometimes we jump to conclusions as to how can we solve this, but maybe we need to step back and say, what is the root of the issue? I think some of these things we need to kind of go back and say, what are the best practices for like the land development code, for zoning districts, development regulations, organization, form, and style. We can use the core neighborhoods master plan. It has everything in there to help our city to grow, to be well maintained, for safety, for beautification, and it can be a master plan for our entire city. We can look at how it's going to help develop for high standards in our neighborhoods and create a sense of community. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Mahoney.
City of Fargo has contracts throughout the city with millions of dollars of contracts that go on. Typically with a contractor, if you don't finish on time, there's penalties of money that go against that company. So a contractor, if they're delayed, would typically come to us and say, hey, I got a problem here. We ask for forgiveness. Jim Roars already has paid the taxes on this. He's got $29,000 into it, and that's what he came to us and said, hey, it's time to pay me my $29,000 back. And then we had discussions about the condominiums. I think the company will come through, do the 7 condominiums. It's a question of time. What time can we get those built? I think it's an expectation of Roosevelt neighborhood, because that was the compromise on this project, is we do 7 condominiums. I don't think those condominiums have to be built. Rohr's company gets $1.4 million out of its TIF over time, and that's something that should motivate them to finish this. It's a $2 million project, and I think it can be worked out. And I'm glad Shannon said, let's communicate. Communication is key to everything. Let's sit down and talk about it. And yes, that's what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we go to our closing statements, I'm going to get one more pitch in for vote411.org to learn more about these candidates as they ask questions on there, and it will again be going live tomorrow. And again, with the candidates, if any of you have not completed any questions on there, please do so citizens can see your answers. And everybody remember to vote on June 14th. And thanks again to the City of Fargo. And now we begin with our closing statements with Shannon Rohrs-Jones.
Can I, 1 minute?
1 minute, sorry.
I remembered the last thought I had for my other turn, and it was really about communication again. As you've heard, communication is important. It's a two-way street. And if we had had the communication as the contract required, we wouldn't be in this situation with the huge spectacle that we saw on Monday. I'm running to bring a fresh perspective to the City of Fargo. I'm running as a business professional who has perspectives that I think will be valuable to the City of Fargo. But I also think that civility on our City Commission is critical. In this time of political polarity, I will make sure that we never have a situation like that where any member of our community is abused in the way that happened in this chamber on Monday night. My other priorities are making sure that we're fully funding our law enforcement and giving them the support that they deserve. I want to make sure that we use all of our resources within the community to look for efficiencies, keeping our property taxes low and our special assessments as low as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Candidate Borghi.
Yeah, I thank everybody for coming tonight and listening to us answer some questions. I'm running for mayor again because of my experience in the hospitality industry and working with a wide and a vast variety of individuals and situations. What's happening in Fargo, again, is unique all in itself. What we need to do is we need to get back on track to where what brought us here, what made Fargo really what it is. And with my background in budget and working with people and working with departments, I'm the perfect choice for mayor. Also, I want to remind everybody where they can find out more about me. If you like looking at me kind of fumble around here, you can look online at Vote Borghi. It's BORGIE.com. And you'll be able to see me a little bit different situation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hukan Devar.
Thank you again to the League for hosting this event, and thank you to everyone for attending. My name is Hukun Debar, and I'm running for mayor. We know it has been a struggle to keep up with the rising expenses. We know that it has been difficult to find jobs and find employees. And we know that life is simply harder now than it was 4 years ago. It is time for new leadership in Fargo, leadership that cares about the lives of all Fargoans. To the hardworking people of Fargo, I've heard you. I know you are struggling. I'll work hard to make your life easier. We will end special assessments. We'll hire a cabinet that reflects Fargo. We'll address the rising cost of childcare, housing, and transportation. We'll implement a housing-first policy, and also we'll solve the workforce shortage by creating workforce departments. I humbly ask you for your vote on June 14. Let's create a brighter future for Fargo together. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sherry Fargo.
My fellow citizens of Fargo, I have a vision for the city. I think a lot of our problems are that we need to take care of the beauty of the land, and it can solve a lot of these problems. The City of Fargo's forester, Scott Ludall, has declared that I have a vision for Fargo. I have a vision for our city. But I not only have a vision, I have the steps to get us there to fruition. It's going to take more than experience to get our city on track. It's looking at our city with humility and compassion of where we are, who we are, and where we want to go. I believe in our city. Fargo is ready for a mayor with compassion, grit, patience, humility, grace to change our city for policies for beautification. And as mayor, I will bring beauty, creativity, and safety into our neighborhoods, parks, schools, streets, and highways, and commerce to live in harmony with the natural environment. So God can bless us now and forever for our city to be a city of God's beauty. Thank you, and may God bless Fargo and God bless America.
Thank you, Tim Mahoney.
Thank you, League of Cities, for having this tonight. You have seen my body of work over the last 8 years. Fargo has grown 20%, #1 job market, permits up to $760 million. We have growth, we have stability, we have great things that have happened in our community. We've also had some crises during that time which we've had to face as a community, and we've done very well. When we compare ourselves to other communities, we're a shining star of what a community can really be. Now it's up to our community. Where we should go from here? What can we develop and do within our community? What are we going to do to help with the amount of jobs that are available? I have companies calling me now coming to Fargo because we're such a great place. And what we're great about is the people. The people have the energy, the wit, the things to make this city a better city. I would like to lead you again another 4 years and see what else we could do in the next 4 years. Thank you.
And Arlette Preston.
Thanks to the League for hosting tonight. I'm in this race to work for the hardworking residents of Fargo so that everyone who chooses to live here can prosper. I'm in this race because too many people are getting locked out of home ownership and rental rates are getting out of reach. I've been working and will continue to work on ensuring childcare is accessible and affordable. Finally, in order to fill job vacancies, our community needs to be welcoming to all who choose to live here. I've spoken about inclusivity. It's important that city leadership reflects the community. In the entire history of Fargo, there's never been a woman. It's time. I have the experience and the skills to serve as mayor. I have the energy, focus, and passion to get the job done. Thank you for your time. I ask for your support on June 14th. Vote Arlette for mayor for Fargo, and my website is arletteforfargo.org. Thank you.
Thank you, and will everybody join me in thanking all these candidates for their time? The League will have one more night of candidate forums in West Fargo on May 17th.